In the headlines, President Park Geun-hye wraps up her four-nation Middle East tour, a chance to solidify Seoul's economic cooperation with the region that's looking to diversify its growth points. German Chancellor Angela Merkel visits Japan and calls on Tokyo to face its wartime atrocities. And Russian authorities make 5 arrests in the ongoing investigation into the murder of Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken critic of the Kremlin. Welcome to the program. You're watching Primetime News live from Seoul. I am Kang Chery.
And I'm Sean Lim. It's the start of a brand new week. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Well, we begin with President Park Geun-hye's return from her week-long trip to the Middle East, which took her to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. And
through her diplomacy there, which focused on energy and her creative economy, she came back with prospects for stronger and much more active cooperation with the region. Our Chery takes us through some of the achievements from the presidential trip.
Speaking to reporters en route to Seoul, President Park said she felt that Korea's vision for revitalizing the economy through greater economic cooperation with the Middle East is being realized. President Park said that one of the biggest achievements from her trip was helping small to mid-sized Korean firms strike business deals in the region's so-called new industries. In fact, one-on-one business sessions in each of the 4 countries, many of which were attended by SMEs, resulted in 44 bilateral agreements totaling $900 million. The agreements expand existing oil and construction-centered cooperation into the fields of nuclear energy, agriculture, healthcare, ICT, and culture. These post-oil era initiatives, the president said, are in line with Seoul's economic innovation plan.
Previously energy-focused, these countries have started seeking multi-dimensional development, and that's helped us rediscover the Middle East and encourage the region to once again recognize Korea as an important partner.
As for the specific areas of cooperation, the presidential office listed Korea's first export of its creative economy model to Saudi Arabia, a deal between Korea and the UAE to develop Korea's halal industry, and an establishment of a cultural center in Abu Dhabi. The presidential office said dozens of deals were made mainly because Koreans' expertise, credibility, and hardworking style have helped build trust in the region. To sustain the momentum, Seoul plans to monitor the progress of the deals with these 4 countries and boost cooperation to ensure they are implemented. Chery, Arirang News.
And immediately upon arriving in Seoul, President Park went to visit U.S. Ambassador to South Korea, Mark Lippert, who is, by the way, making a fast recovery from last week's knife attack. He's expected to be discharged from the hospital tomorrow afternoon. Arirang's Hwang Sung-hee has more.
Doctors say Ambassador Lippert will likely be out of the hospital by Tuesday afternoon. The U.S. envoy needed 80 stitches on his face and arm following a brutal knife attack last week in central Seoul.
We are planning to remove half the stitches this morning and the other half tomorrow morning. If there's no problem, he will leave the hospital tomorrow afternoon.
The 55-year-old assailant, Kim Ki-jong, who is now under arrest, was protesting the ongoing joint military drills between Seoul and Washington. The attack raised concerns about whether it would leave a dent in relations between the 2 allies. But President Park Geun-hye, visiting the ambassador on Monday, said his handling of the incident had strengthened the alliance.
대사님이 의연하고 담대하게 이렇게 대처하시는 모습을 보고 미국과 한국 양국의 국민들이 큰 감동을 받았습니다. 오히려 한미 관계가 더 가까워지는 계기가 되고 있다고 생각합니다.
President Park headed over to the hospital upon her return from the Middle East, saying she was saddened by the news since she too was a victim of a similar attack back in 2006. The doctors treating Ambassador Lippert say he is in good spirits and eager to get back to work as soon as possible. 황상희, Arirang News.
The Korean government is planning to focus on boosting domestic demand in the first half of this year amid deflationary pressures. One of the ways it plans to achieve that goal is to pump in $9 billion into the economy. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
The government will spend the money in its economic revitalization fund earmarked for the entire year, or roughly $9 billion in the first half of the year. The decision comes amid a growing urgency to help lift the economy out of the doldrums. The money is from the $41 billion revitalization fund set up by the finance ministry last year, according to the ministry official. The nation's economic outlook is still foggy. The latest corporate sentiment index hit a 6-month low last month as local companies are anxious about the unfavorable business conditions. And the consumer sentiment index? It's still lower than the level recorded last May, right after a drop in consumer sentiment following the Sewol ferry disaster in April. The state-run Korea Institute of Public Finance says that allocating a larger chunk of the fund in the first half of the year will help grow the economy by 0.23 percentage points as opposed to dispersing it evenly throughout the year. With the move, the government hopes to garner investment, create more jobs, and stimulate domestic spending to prevent the economy from falling into a deflationary period. The government also said that it aims to carry out structural reforms while pressing large conglomerates to raise the minimum wage to revive the economy. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan has repeatedly emphasized the need to raise the minimum wage. But not everyone seems to agree, as Samsung Electronics, considered a key player in corporate Korea, has recently decided to freeze its wages. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The Korean won dropped to its lowest level in a month on Monday, closing at 1,112 won to the U.S. dollar. The drop of 13.4 won from last Friday comes as positive U.S. jobs data for February raised speculation that the Federal Reserve may raise interest rates sooner than expected in June. Also adding to the won's move, foreign investors in Korea turned into net sellers on Monday. The snap in a recent buying streak put further pressure on the Korean currency. Samsung Electronics saw its net sales in Korea slump to an 8-year low last year. According to an audit report, Samsung's domestic sales came in at $18.7 billion in 2014, which is down 9% from a year earlier. The notable drag came from the weak performance of Samsung's mobile division, which saw its net sales tumble nearly 20% to about $10 billion last year. Nearly a year has passed since the sinking of the Sewol ferry. It was a tragedy that left more than 300 people, most of them high school students, dead or missing. And now efforts to honor the victims have continued even beyond Korea, where in the United States, 2 heroines were awarded a special prize for sacrificing their lives to save others. Kwon So-ah has the story.
It's a medal they will never wear. 2 young women who sacrificed their lives to save passengers on the ill-fated Sewol ferry were awarded gold medallions at a chapel in Philadelphia on Sunday for their acts of bravery in last year's disaster. Choi Hae-jung was a teacher at Tanwon High School, which is where the more than 320 students on the ferry were enrolled. They were on a class trip to Jeju Island. Choi is said to have gone down with the ship to save as many people as possible. Park Ji-young was a member of the crew who reportedly saved around 50 passengers before she died, handing them life vests without leaving one for herself.
We will think of the prize as an honor given to us by our children and will live our lives in proud service of society.
The Four Chaplains Memorial Foundation is a non-profit established by U.S. President Harry Truman in 1951 in remembrance of four chaplains who went down with a torpedoed cruise ship during World War II after saving other passengers and giving up their own life vests.
We feel that this act by the two young ladies, Ms. Choi and Ms. Park, is directly related to the sacrifice of the four chaplains.
Former U.S. Presidents Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan are also among those who have received the prize for their service to the public. Choi and Park are the first Koreans to be given the award, which now stands as a reminder to people around the world of the sacrifices made on April 16, 2014. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
For the first time in 7 years, German Chancellor Angela Merkel has made an official visit to Japan. On her first day there, she emphasized Japan's need to face up to its wartime past, just as Germany did after the Second World War. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel discussed Germany's reconciliatory efforts after World War II on the first day of her two-day visit to Japan. At a joint press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Monday, Merkel said Germany's reacceptance by its European neighbors following the war was possible because it has squarely faced its dark past. Merkel said that her country also made sure that the Nazis' horrendous acts would never be overlooked by history, something she regards as a precondition to reconciliation.
Reconciliation always takes two. We had the experience that France, for example, was willing to approach Germany after World War II. The European Union we have today is in fact the product of such a reconciliation process because after centuries of war, the Europeans said, we want to be united. It is our luck that we are united, which led to a stable peace order.
Her remarks come at a time when Japan has been receiving strong criticism from Korea and China over inadequate acknowledgement of its wartime atrocities. Tokyo faced harsh backlash after it attempted to review past apologies that were made over the forced sexual enslavement of Asian women during World War II, including the landmark 1993 Murayama Statement. Also, Japanese school textbooks have long been accused of whitewashing the country's past aggressions in Asia. Abe is set to issue a statement for the 70th anniversary of Japan's defeat in World War II in August, but there's speculation that he'll try to water down Japan's wartime atrocities. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
For this week's Industry Insight, we take a look at Korea's animated character market. I mean, the industry has made big strides forward in recent years.
Arirang's Kim Min-ji tells us how those lovable characters have propelled brand Korea around the world and what it will take to reach the next level.
This 90-second cartoon featuring two larvae and their quirky adventures inside a drain is entertaining enough to attract viewers both young and old, even without dialogue. Created by Tuba Entertainment in 2011, Larva is now broadcast in over 100 countries and has been made into more than 1,000 products.
From the early stages of development, we focused on multinationalization. Body language is somewhat universal, so we could easily create a sensation across different markets.
But it's just one of few success stories. Korea has a relatively short history in the character business and lacks infrastructure and global networks. On top of this, there's still a deep-rooted perception that cartoon characters are just for kids.
Disney's Frozen is an example of an animation that can be enjoyed by the whole family. Korean characters need to target people of all ages, as a larger consumer base will boost the market.
So where does Korea's industry stand?
The local character market has grown over 60% in the last 5 years, and it's expected to top $8 billion this year. But despite the exponential growth, it makes up less than 5% of the global market.
Analysts say the government needs to open communication channels for local companies to connect with distributors and licensors from around the world. Case in point, the Culture Ministry plans to invest $350 million into the character and animation industries over the next 5 years.
From the fostering of artists to facilitating production and exports, we plan to provide companies with comprehensive assistance.
Roy Visual, creator of hit animated TV show Robocar Polly, says the drive is sure to boost Korea's potential.
Korea has the manpower, so with systematic support for the process of creating a character or animation, local companies will be able to create stronger and better content.
With the right reinforcements and time, experts say Korea will be able to produce characters as iconic as Mickey Mouse. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Authorities in Russia have made 5 arrests in the ongoing investigation into the murder of Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken critic of the Kremlin.
With more, we turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, authorities are calling it a contract killing allegedly carried out by these men. Any details released on their backgrounds?
Well, all 5 suspects are said to be Chechen from Russia's predominantly Muslim Northern Caucasus. 2 of them, including an ex-policeman, have been charged with murder by a Moscow court. However, Nemtsov's closest allies are rejecting the narrative that his death was a result of religious extremism, but rather politically motivated terror attacks. Arirang's Connie Kim reports.
A Moscow court has charged 2 men accused of plotting to kill Russian opposition leader Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken Kremlin critic. Zaur Dadayev, a former police officer who fought Islamic insurgents, admitted he was involved in the killing, while the second suspect, Anzor Gubashev, pleaded innocent. Russian state television showed the men's arrival in court wearing handcuffs and covering their faces. 3 other suspects have been jailed. And all 5 men are of Chechen origin, which could potentially be a sensitive issue in Russia, as many Russians view Chechens as violent extremists. A 6th suspect reportedly blew himself up with a grenade in a standoff with police in the Chechen capital of Grozny. Nemtsov was assassinated in late February, days before he was set to address a major anti-government rally. He was also to publish a report on the Russian military's involvement in the war in Ukraine, despite Moscow's denial that it has supplied separatists with troops and weapons. The biggest question now is who ordered Nemtsov's assassination. Some of his supporters have gone so far as to say the Russian government was behind the killing. Russian officials deny that, and President Vladimir Putin has condemned the killing and pledged to do everything to find and prosecute the killers. Nemtsov's shooting is the most high-profile killing of an opposition figure since Putin came to power in 2000. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Over to Africa now. The Nigerian extremist group Boko Haram has purportedly pledged its allegiance to the leaders of the self-declared Islamic State across Iraq and Syria. An audio clip posted on Twitter Sunday is believed to be the voice of Boko Haram's leader. In it, he pledges loyalty to IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and declares him as Caliph of the Muslim world. But regardless of this latest partnership, many in Nigeria believe Boko Haram's days are numbered.
There will be peace in this country, and Boko Haram will be a thing of the past. We've had things like that before, like Maitasini and the rest. They were all overcome by our military and the police. So we believe this time around we are going to win the war against them. Whether they are affiliated to ISIS or not, they'll be eliminated.
Meanwhile, a major aerial and ground offensive is reportedly underway against Boko Haram in northeastern Nigeria. The joint military operation with Chad and Niger has so far retaken more than 30 towns from the militant group, which has killed over 13,000 people during their 6-year insurgency. It's been a year since Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished without a trace on its way to Beijing, carrying 239 passengers and crew. A modest ceremony to mark the first anniversary was held in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday, bringing together Malaysian, Chinese, and other nationalities. In a separate event in Sydney, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott raised hopes that there's still a chance in finding the lost plane.
Well, it can't go on forever, but as long as there are reasonable leads, The search will go on. We've got 60,000 square kilometres that is the subject of this search. If that's unsuccessful, there's another 60,000 square kilometres that we intend to search. And as I said, we are reasonably confident of finding the plane.
An interim report released by Malaysia showed that the plane's captain and crew were mentally sound. The independent probe also found that the battery of one of the black box recorders had expired more than a year before the tragic flight. Grieving family members in China called the report meaningless, saying it offered no new evidence, nor did it clear doubts about what has been declared an accident. And finally, tens of thousands in Tokyo have protested government plans to relaunch the country's nuclear industry nearly 4 years after the Fukushima disaster. On Sunday, organizers say about 23,000 people joined the major rally in front of Japan's parliament, calling for the decommission of all nuclear plants across the country and even Asia. Japan has been without atomic energy for more than a year. The Shinzo Abe administration is seeking to change that by restoring the first reactors in June.
The recovery effort in Fukushima Daiichi is making no progress as they keep contaminating the ocean and fail to bring the situation under control. In fact, it's getting worse in many respects. We want to tell the world that the Fukushima nuclear accident has never ended and it continues to affect all of us.
The protest comes just days ahead of the 4-year anniversary since the massive earthquake and tsunami which triggered the meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. And that wraps up our look at international stories for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Che with the Sports Brief. Son Heung-min is amongst the legendary company. Scoring twice in Bayer Leverkusen's 3-0 win over Paderborn, he's now put in 16 goals in all competitions so far this season. Son's now being compared to legend Cha Bum-gun, whose 19 goals, also with Leverkusen in the 1985-86 season, is the record for Koreans in the Bundesliga. Now the 22-year-old has 10 goals from league matches, 1 from the League Cup and 5 from Champions League competition, scoring at a clip of once in every 2 games. With the form he's in, he's expected to break the record, which would make his season one of the best ever as an Asian player in Europe. Moving on to golf, Dustin Johnson is back in the winner's circle after taking home the title at the Cadillac Championship. 17 months after he's won his last title, he lifted his first trophy of a shortened season. That's on return from a self-imposed 6-month hiatus in February. With 3 top 5 finishes, including the win since his comeback, Johnson jumped 9 spots to 7th in the world and is threatening to become a major force on the tour. To the KBL playoffs, the SK Knights and the ET Land Elephants kicked off Game 1 of their 5-game series. The Elephants got ahead early, taking a 7-point lead at halftime. But after the break, the Knights had a chance to come back, but the Elephants stomped that out with a strong 4th quarter. They upset the home team as Wednesday's Game 2 stays in Seoul. And over to pro volleyball, first to the ladies in Incheon. The Hunguk Life Pink Spiders earned the sweep over the Korea Expressway Zenith, who rested their stars. At 1st and 4th, respectively, the Zenith and Pink Spiders are locked in place for the postseason. Meanwhile, the Korean Air Jumbos beat the OK Savings Bank Russian Cash to keep their season alive. They rose to 4th over Hyundai Capital by a single point and need a win in their final match to maximize their chances. That's all I have for now. Stay tuned for the weather up next. Good night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with a weather outlook. We kicked off the week under moderate conditions, but cold air has moved in, so parts of the country are under a cold wave watch, while wind chills are making conditions feel a lot chillier than the actual numbers. Now, we are also seeing clear skies in most regions, and a dry weather watch has been extended to more regions, including Seoul. And through tomorrow night, 5 to 20 millimeters of precipitation is expected for the mountains of Jeju, while up to 3 centimeters of snow is in store there, while about a centimeter will drop over both Jeollado provinces. Expect chilly conditions to stick around, along with a big gap in temperatures from day to night. On to the readings. Seoul dips to -7 in the morning before reaching 2 in the afternoon. Daegu and Gwangju hits 2, Busan reaches 7. Meanwhile, Daejeon makes it to 0, Jeju 3, Dokdo 1, Mount Kumgang remains colder. Those are the updates I have for you now. I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Po Kyung, and that will do it for this edition of Primetime News for this Monday. Thanks for watching. I'm Kang Chery.
And I'm Sean Lim. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.